Nabil, it's great to have you with us. My first question, let's discuss the shipping crisis that we have seen. How did we get there? What are the main reasons that led to a tenfold increase in shipping rates?
Hi, Lara. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. Yes, so the shipping industry has seen really an unprecedented situation. We have a combination of factors that started at the beginning of the pandemic, with factories closed in many places across the globe, combined with an increase of demand that surprised many companies in the world. So that imbalance between supply and demand started to create shipping rates to go higher. And then we saw a sequence of events that has created even a higher situation in terms of like backlog and congestion. So labor shortage, capacity increase in terms of demand, and also the fact that we have a much lower air freight capacity across the globe due to the fact that many of the airlines are not operating yet internationally at the level they were operating to the pre-pandemic. So that combination of factors is creating this imbalance, which is creating now a much higher demand than supply in the marketplace, which is consequently increasing the rate significantly.
And what are your expectations moving forward for the shipping rates? When do you think we will see an end to this crisis?
So I think we're going to see things getting slightly worse before they get better. The reason is that we are entering into what we call the peak season in shipping. So Q4 is the highest demand in terms of volume and consumption across the globe. And so what we see now is that we still see some shipping lines and airlines actually increasing the prices as we go into October with some announcements also on the domestic tracking and parcel distribution networks. So we see still increases coming for the month of October at least. And I think when we're going to start to see the situation balancing and going back to a place where it will be more stable and we'll start to see not increases anymore, I think it's going to be beyond and right after Chinese New Year, which will be February, March. I don't think everything is going to be resolved by February or March, but at least we will have passed that peak of demand, which is now really, we are in the, I think, at the worst stage. Capacity is at 100% in terms of occupation. We started to see actually in the Middle East, for example, in the month of October, specifically, various shipping lines shifting vessels that they have for the China, for example, Jebel Ali route, is shifting some of these vessels to service some of the trade lanes going into the US as an example. So I think it's still going to get a bit worse before it gets better.
So can you elaborate more on the routes of the Middle East?
There are different factors, right? So if you look, for example, at the Middle East, it's a region that depends a lot on import with an infrastructure that is that hasn't suffered to the same extent that what we see right now in the west coast of the US, right, where there are like 60 vessels or even a bit more in the last days out of the California ports. So we don't see a similar situation, but the Suez Canal situation has created also a challenge in order of planning of vessels, and there is still congestion. I think the Middle East, before we saw this shift of vessels going into the Middle East, going into like some places like the US, was in a pretty good position. Now I think we saw that in the month of October, particularly, the capacity that was planned and what is actually executed in reality is approximately 40%. And that's going to create bigger problems, and we're going to see more delays going into the Middle East, and we're going to see also price going up for the trade lane.
Nabil, the bottlenecks were triggered mainly by a sudden increase in e-commerce activity. People were locked at home and they were getting paid by the stimulus checks. Will this change, do you think, moving forward, since economies are open now and people will start shifting their consumer spending towards experiences and services rather than goods?
Yeah, so I think we will see definitely also rates in terms of an increase of growth of e-commerce that are going to go and that are going to slow down. I think there is no doubt about this. If we compare 2020 to 2021 as an example, we're going to see that balancing. But I think it's very clear based on the conversation that I have with companies across the globe. I have the chance to work with Fortune 500 organizations on their strategy and really looking at what they are doing. I think one thing that the pandemic have made very clear for companies is that they have to invest in that channel way more than what they were investing. So I don't think we're going to see actually an overall slowdown of e-commerce adoption. I think we're going to see actually an acceleration. I think the convenience of online purchase is one of the primary reasons why people buy online. And once they got used to that convenience and that speed of delivery and so on, we see that consumers usually in 70% of the cases remain loyal to that channel to a certain extent. So I think we're going to see still a strong increase in e-commerce, but yes, we're going to see a consumer spending toward material things that's going to go also, that's going to slow down compared to last year when people were stuck at home and they had basically no choice. So it's going to be a combination of both, but every number we see from any organization that has been one of the winners during the pandemic has seen increase in e-commerce, and even in the markets where the pandemic is already, I would say, under control, where stores are open already for a couple of months and so on, operating normally, we still see very strong demand in e-commerce. And I think that's going to be even more evident as we go into the holiday season.